Welcome back. JJ Buckets here, yours truly, and today, you already know, we are talking basketball.
And he is fouled. It counts at the foul on Carmelo Anthony. So LeBron James.
And today's topic of the day, you've seen the title, it's going to be the NBA All-Star Game, and boy am I going to get into it. So, for a while there, it seemed like the NBA was content not having an All-Star Game, simply naming the names of the players who would be All-Stars and just moving on, which would have been the smart move. But in the midst of the season, it seemed like the attitude changed, and it seemed like Adam Silver started talking about, oh, we would love to have an All-Star Game if it's possible, and now we are a full go for this weekend in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's left many, like myself, wondering why. Why have a meaningless game in the midst of an NBA season where you're tight-roping a global pandemic? Frankly, in the worst country that in terms of managing that global pandemic.
Whack.
With all due respect to the States, which in this case, you guys have done a horrible job with the pandemic if you're watching from America. I'm not even gonna pretend like you're not in that position that you are. Anyways, for comparison's sake, the NFL didn't even do their usual style of Pro Bowl. They had a virtual Pro Bowl where people played Madden, and the thing there is, the players that would have been involved in the Pro Bowl wouldn't have even been involved, obviously, with the rest of the season. The Pro Bowl is for players whose seasons are done, that just want to be celebrated for having good seasons, whereas obviously the two teams going to the Super Bowl don't show up to the Pro Bowl because, you know, they have an actual season to play out. Here, you're going to have players that are going to continue on in this season playing in this All-Star Game. Huh.
Why?
But naturally, the answer here is kind of obvious as to why this is happening, right? It's the extra money and the extra revenue that's gonna come out of the All-Star Game. That is the light at the end of the tunnel for the NBA. Here's the thing though. From what I've seen, I feel like there's good evidence, you know, and good reason to think this will probably be the worst All-Star Game in NBA history. Let's talk about the elephant in the room here first, right? And I've already alluded to it, you're managing your season around a global pandemic. I actually applauded the NBA for how well-structured and organized the NBA bubble was. They did a fantastic job containing the impact that COVID was gonna have on the end of that season, and I will never stop singing their praises for that. And obviously you were never gonna replicate that success with the environment you're in now, with teams constantly traveling and whatnot. But this move to have an All-Star Game in the midst of this just feels tone deaf, doesn't it?
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
You've had plenty of cases around the league and plenty of teams decimated by COVID around the league. Hell, as recently as a few days ago, the Toronto Raptors, and obviously that one hits close to home. You've had the Memphis Grizzlies struggle with it. You've had the Miami Heat, the Washington Wizards. The list goes on. And just think about some of the big names that we already know have dealt with COVID. Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler, who missed a huge chunk of this season because of COVID, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell. Like, these are huge headlining names that have dealt with this kind of stuff, right? So, if you care about player safety and you care about minimizing the impact that this has on your players throughout the season, why put them at risk for a meaningless basketball game that won't count towards anything other than lining the pockets of the league ever so slightly more? Obviously, these players signed up to play during a global pandemic. That's something that they agreed to. But, you know, when they're playing in games that generally count. This one doesn't, like, at all. I fail to see the point. And don't get me wrong, it's not just the players heading to the All-Star Game that you should be worried about. Hell, I might actually be more worried about the larger chunk of the league that's not going anywhere near that All-Star Game and what those guys are potentially bringing back into the locker room. The other side to this, and the reason why I think the game itself is honestly gonna suck, is look at some of the player reactions to having the All-Star Game. LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo, which are arguably your two biggest stars in the league, have come out and vocally voiced their frustrations about playing in this game. and just their complete disinterest in LeBron's case, and honestly, even in Giannis's case too. I'm not saying every single player is gonna have that attitude, but when your arguably two biggest stars are carrying that mentality into the game, I do think that energy is gonna trickle down, and their feelings towards this are gonna carry a lot of weight with the other players. The NBA All-Star break generally is supposed to be a fun, break in the middle of the season where these players can get their families, can get their friends together, they can go down to wherever the site is, and they can just have some fun with those people. What's the appeal for them now? Making a little bit of extra revenue for the league, and especially in this case, you're talking about top stars, and generally speaking, players that already have the bag more than secured. So just, what's the appeal to, get out of bed in the morning and be excited about playing in the All-Star game? Like, we have seen some lackluster effort in All-Star games beforehand. I honestly, and I say this just wholeheartedly, I honestly think this might be the worst effort that we will ever see at an NBA All-Star game. I've said my 2 cents on this, but what do you folks think? Do you think the All-Star game is actually going to be good this season? Because if you do, comment below and let me know your reasons why. I'm genuinely curious. Other than that, you know the usual drill. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. It goes a long way, and I truly appreciate it when you folks do it. Other than that, I've said my piece, so I am done here for the day.